Hi everybody, welcome back to the Crime Lab. So in this episode, we're going to talk about Tsutomu Miyazaki, another Japanese serial killer. As I said in the last one, I apologize if I butcher any names. I unfortunately don't speak any other languages, so I'm going to try my best. And I do have a cat that is running around causing chaos because she is adorable. She's also orange, so that is part of her job. Really, cat? So Tsutomu was born August 21st of 1962 in, I'm going to attempt to pronounce this city, Itsukaiki, Tokyo. I probably mispronounced it and I apologize. It's a prefecture of Tokyo, I believe. And he was born the son of a wealthy family. He was born premature, and he actually had this weird birth defect where in his hand, his joints were fused together. So he was not able to bend his, if he was holding his hand like this, he was never able to put it upwards like that. So a lot of his hand and wrist joints were fused together on his hands. His family operated a regional newspaper company and were very, very well known. His grandfather and his great-grandfather had served as council people for their town. And he was mainly raised by his grandfather and was considered intellectually disabled. His grandfather was considered an intellectually disabled man that was hired by the family as a nanny due to the family being busy. He was bullied quite a bit growing in school. This is kind of some of the stuff that I was able to find of his childhood and his upbringing. Bullied a lot in school because of his deformity with his hands and his joints, and mainly kept to himself. He attended Maidai Nakano High School, which was a prestigious high school associated with the Meiji University, and was a star student for part of his years there, but towards the end it noticeably dropped. He noticeably kind of went downhill over the years. He was ranked 40 out of 56 students and did not receive the customary admission to university. He attended a community college and studied to become a photography technician instead of studying English and becoming a teacher, like he had kind of hoped to be. So in the mid-'80s, he moved back to his parents' house and shared a room with his older sister. And although his family was influential, like I said, they ran a large newspaper in the area, he had no interest in taking over the family business. In May of 1988, his grandfather died, and to, quote-unquote, retain a part of him, Tsutomu actually ate some of his ashes after he was cremated. And then a few weeks later, Miyazaki's sister caught him watching her shower, and was attacked when she told him to leave. His mother, after hearing all of this, demanded that he spend more time working and less time with his videotapes when she learned of the attack, and his mother was actually attacked after that, unfortunately. So, kind of now leading to the murders that happened. So between August of 1988 and June of 1989, he mutilated and murdered 4 girls between the ages of 4 and 7, and after he killed them, he performed necrophilia, so he had sex with their corpse. One of the victims, he drank her blood and ate part of her hand. I don't know why he did this, but it is reported that he admitted to doing this. So prior to his arrest, the crimes were named the Little Girl Murders, and later in the Tokyo Saitama. Later, they were named the Tokyo Saitama Serial Kidnapping Murders of Little Girls. Kind of a long name. I would stick with the little girl murders. So, August 22nd, 1988, Mari Kono, who was 4 years old, I'm going to go through the list of victims now. She vanished from a friend's house. Miyazaki led her to his car and drove towards Tokyo and parked under a bridge. My cat is being stupid. Sat there for 30 minutes before murdering her and performing necrophilia. He then dumped her body in the nearby hills, took her clothes, returned to cut off her hands and feet, and burned her remains in his furnace, ground her bones into powder, and sent them to her family. The hands were then found in his closet after he was arrested. If the video camera starts shaking, I have a cat that is deciding to cause chaos and be annoying. So she is on my desk right now. So on October 3rd, 1988, Masami Yoshizawa, who is 7 years old, after seeing her while driving in the country, he decided that she was the next victim. He offered her a ride and then drove to the same place he killed his first victim. And then he killed her, committed necrophilia, took her clothes, and left. Did not do the take the hands, grind her bones into powder, all that. Just took her clothes and left. December 12th of 1988, abducted Erica Namba, who was also 4 years old, as she was returning from a friend's house. Forced her into his car and drove her to a lock in Naguri, took naked pictures of her in the back seat, and then killed her. He then proceeded to tie her hands and feet, cover her with a bedsheet, and place her in the trunk. Disposed of her clothes in a wooded area, left the body in a parking lot, and that was discovered 3 days later. The family received a postcard from Miyazaki 3 days after this, so 6 days after the murder, claiming her death. It was not one of those ones where she's like, oh yeah, it's me. It was an anonymous postcard. And then the final murder was June 6th of 1989. Ayako Nomoto, who was 5 years old, was convinced to allow pictures being taken of her. Miyazaki led this little girl to his car and then murdered her. Took the corpse back to his apartment and performed necrophilia, kept her for 2 nights and performed necrophilia on her for 2 nights. And then when the corpse began to decompose, he dismembered it, so he cut it up, abandoned the torso in the cemetery and the head in the nearby hills, kept the hands, drank blood from her, and cannibalized her. Cannibalized the parts that he had kept. So then at this point, after this, he was fearing police finding the body parts, and then went back, collected them, and brought them to the closet, to his apartment, where they were found after he was arrested. So in July of 1989, so about a month after his last murder, he saw 2 sisters playing in the park and managed to get the younger sister away from the older and started taking pictures of her, but was actually caught by the father of the girl and was attacked, unable to, and he was unable to restrain the little girl, so he tried to get away. Miyazaki eventually returned to retrieve his car. He had left for a while, but then was arrested by the police because the father had called, said, hey, he got away, he ran this way, but, you know, I wouldn't be surprised if he comes back. Now I have both of my cats on the table, so there's going to be some chaos on here. So after he was arrested, police searched his apartment, found 5,763 videotapes, some containing anime and slasher films. And then during this whole process, you know, you're arrested, you're interviewed, there's a whole process to this. He apparently remained fairly calm and collected during the trial, just kind of appeared indifferent. After his arrest, he told police that he craved being listened to about his problems, but believed his parents worried about material desires rather than sentimental desires, and he felt like they just ignored him. So during the trial, which began March 1990, so about 6 months after everything went down, or closer to 9 months, he was seen often talking nonsensical, but he blamed all of his actions on what he claimed was an alter ego called Ratman. Nobody really knows where this alter ego came from. He never apparently showed signs of DID or anything like that. No real what some people may call mental defects. There was nothing really wrong with him. So it actually was a 7-year-long trial that focused on the mental state at the time of the murders. So one thing that I found interesting was under Japanese law, people of unsound minds are not subject to punishment, and people having disabilities are entitled to reduced sentences. So that there's some cases of that being similar here in the US, but it's not always the case. So then 3 juries deliberated on a possible disability. 1 said a personality disorder, 1 said schizophrenia, 1 said a cognitive disability. All came up with different answers. Ultimately, it was decided that he would be sentenced to death on April 14th of 1979. I was not able to find the actual date of his execution. I just may not have seen it in the sources that I was using. But yeah, I wasn't able to unfortunately find it for when I recorded this. I do always kind of question if people that kill other people do have some sort of mental issues going on. I always kind of wonder. Now, mind you, I'm not a psychologist or a psychiatrist. I have never worked in the medical field or with people that have mental disabilities for an extended period of time, so I don't know much about them. I have spent short amounts of time working with people with like mental disabilities when I was in college, but again, I am not a medical professional, so I can't really give an opinion. I'm just kind of curious about it, because I know there are certain mental illnesses that potentially can lead somebody to have more violent tendencies. I have heard of that happening, but I know it's not like foolproof. Like, it's not always the case, nor is it always the case that somebody that has violent tendencies has a mental illness or a mental issue. It's kind of hit or miss. But feel free to leave your comments, concerns, any suggestions for future videos in the comments. I do read them, but have a great rest of your day, everybody.